Hiya buds, this is Ursa. Glad y'all could make it out today. So this is something new for me. I've never recorded a speed paint or speed drawing of any kind. Had to mess around with the audio, with the editing software for a while to figure out how to get it to speed up, because I use Lightworks when I edit, so everything is kind of in different places. But you know, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Like, as you can see at the moment, I'm just working on the dress and figuring out which ways that I want everything to work out and figure out all that stuff. But I figured in the meantime, while past me is drawing, I could, you know, just sit and talk and see what's going on and all that stuff. I have nothing to talk about. Probably gonna edit this out and start over. Nah, too late for that. Anyway, so in the drawing currently, I'm just working on the frills of the dress and figuring out where I want everything to be and how I want everything to flow. And I do change quite a few things as I go along, like you're gonna see. In the meantime, while I figure that out, I'm gonna think about what I want to talk about in this video. Because, I mean, speed paints are pretty interesting on their own. Oh, and ignore what's going on with the eyes. My brush was messing up, so I had to, like, scribble a bunch. There it goes. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna have to think about what I want to talk about in the meantime. There's, like, 15, 16 minutes left in this, so, yeah. So this one time, I went to this place, and it was really cool. It was one of those corn mazes, but it wasn't like creepy or anything. They made it for family-friendly stuff. They had a little miniature golf course, and you could go on this hayride. And the reason I'm talking about this is because, like, later on in the drawing, you'll see I add a bunch of flowers. That flower is gonna get moved. Don't pay attention to that. I had a bunch of flowers and nature-y stuff, so I was thinking, what kind of memory can I bring into this? So anyway, there was a hayride that I didn't go on, but there were these huge bales of hay that you could just climb on, and if you get to the top, you can see everything for ages around. You could see your way out of the corn maze, and it was pretty cool. Of course, I'm kind of allergic to hay, so I probably shouldn't have been climbing on it, but you know how it is when you're a kid. You just kind of, well, I mean, I wasn't technically a kid at that point, but, you know, teenager, whatever. You just do stuff anyway because it's fun. So I scaled it and I looked around and went through the corn maze with my mom, and we got lost, but only because she wanted to go whatever direction, and I was like, no, stick to this one wall and we'll get out eventually. So we did my tactic at the same time, and while she got us lost, I got us back out. Granted, my way takes a bit longer. If you don't know, the trick is to either put your hand out and leave it there on one side of the wall and just follow that wall, or just pick a side and follow that side continuously until the end. This works on most mazes. Even if you're doing like a maze on paper, you can trace and just keep an eye on that outline. Double back on yourself, go back out, and eventually you will find the end, and it'll keep you slightly on track. It's less than, I mean, it's more effective than a trial and error anyway, so I've always found it pretty interesting. As you can see in the drawing, I'm getting onto the hair now. I've made different layers for the skin, the hair, and the dress, and later on I'm going to make more layers to go over that and blend the skin and the dress and the hair with different shades to make it look more cohesive as a drawing. I'm going for a really light blue in the eyes. I don't know why, I just wanted it to look really airy and cute. Let's see, what's another story I can tell? So, where I live, you never get snow, but everything is, like, white because it's sand. There's literally, as far as I know, no actual dirt. It's all just sand, and I've personally always been amazed by how grass and trees and plants can grow in sand, of all things. But anyway, I live on a farm, for those of you that don't know. So I went outside yesterday and I picked up a handful of the sand and I threw it out. I'm like, yep, that's snow. Definitely looks like snow because it's pure white, floats. I mean, the dust in it kind of goes swoosh. That's about as close as I've gotten here at my home state. I mean, I've been out before when I was really little, like 4 or 5. We went skiing. I was really sad because the adults wouldn't let me use like the sticks for the skis, and it made it look so much easier when they had the sticks. I've been reassured that it's not easier, but as I, previously stated, I wouldn't know. I haven't been skiing since I was 4 or 5. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that story. I'm just trying to fill a space. I mean, story time with Ursa usually goes fine, right? Yeah, ignore that. I'm blending that right now. Trust me, it'll look better when I clean up all the lines and blend everything together. My style is a little bit odd. Sometimes it looks more realistic, sometimes it looks more cartoonish, but usually it turns out okay, so it doesn't matter much. And the hair was difficult because I couldn't figure out how I wanted it to look. Like, did I want it to be one cohesive mess, or did I want it to be like shiny in bits and like hair, or more like a reflective surface? Because I don't really go for complete realism. I kind of have a mix of cartoonish and maybe a little anime, and I don't know. I honestly don't know what has formed my style. It's a little but I enjoy it. It's fun. Turns out good sometimes, and then you're like, pat myself on the back. Anyway, now we're moving on to the dress, and I'm just kind of shading in the areas that have a darker tone, and I'm gonna get rid of that belt part sooner or later. I don't know. The ruffles are fun. They look really cute. I should have just left them like that, I think, because it looks more like ruffles. I mean, what I did later on looks fine. I like the brighter white, though. It was cuter, I think. I'm still happy with how it turned out. I keep saying that. I'm trying to reassure myself. I'm sure you don't want to hear me talking. Sorry, you can literally just click the mute button or listen to music that you like. I'm just kind of rambling. Later on, I'm gonna look back at this video like, why didn't you just let it be a silent speed paint? And I'm gonna be like, because, future self, I wanted to talk about stuff that I didn't, think through. Because I work like that. And I'm gonna have a full-on conversation with the future me and the past me at the same time. And you guys are gonna be confused. But it's fine. Because this is my video and I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna shut up now. At least for a minute. Maybe. So, a lot of people know that I love bubbles. And I think it's kind of like one of those underrated things. Because they're like, oh yeah, Bubbles. She's just, weird and likes, little kid stuff. And people have actually told me that before. I'm sure you're sitting there thinking like, well, yeah, it's not that bad. It's Bubbles, right? You can like what you like. And I get that. And I wish more people thought that way. Thank you, person that is watching this and thinking that exact thing that I just said. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that comes out to listen to me ramble and watch me sketch for, how long is this video? 20 minutes? You guys are crazy. Anyway, so the reason I really love Bubbles is because they are so happy and light, and I have this best memory that's attached to blowing bubbles. So I went over to my cousin's house to babysit her 2 kids, and one of them, he is absolutely adorable, and his sister is absolutely adorable too, but he's the main character in the story, we'll say. So everywhere that I go, I take bubbles with me. That was something instilled with me with my mom, and it just makes you happy. If you pause and you have a bubble wand and you're feeling really sad, you can just dip the bubble wand in the bubbles and blow, and there's a bunch of bubbles and they just float around and it makes you happy. So them being little kids, I'm like, I have tools that I can entertain them with. So instead of pulling out like my phone and letting them play with the games on there, which were non-existent at the time because I didn't play phone games, Neko Exume, I took out my bubbles and I started blowing, and it was the most amazing thing because his eyes lit up, and he's this gorgeous little blonde, blue-eyed kid, and it was the look of pure wonder that just flooded over his face and stayed there while he played with the bubbles and he tried to pop them, and he was so happy, and it just reinstilled the love that my mom and me share for bubbles, and it made me so happy. I can't put into words how adorable it was. It is probably the cutest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. And I'm sure growing up he won't remember that. But for the rest of my life, I'm going to remember that moment, and I'm going to tie it to bubbles, and I'm going to think, hey, when I'm sad, I always have bubbles to remind me of that one really sweet moment that I get to keep. And I think that's pretty cool. If you have a moment in your life where you can literally just be so happy and reminiscent and tie it to something that you can take with you anywhere. Literally, you can make bubbles out of soap and water. You just have a, bubble wand, or you can make a bubble wand. It's literally something you can take with you anywhere. And I think that's amazing. Sorry, it probably doesn't make any sense, but nah, I'm gonna stop myself there. It makes perfect sense. It makes me happy. If you're still listening to this at this point, it makes you happy on some level, so, I think I'm doing okay. Anyway, another reoccurring theme that you'll see in my channel and my art is purple. As you can see on screen right now, I'm working on this little, flower shiny pin thing, and it matches her dress. It's purple, and I tried to make it look like it's shining because the light's coming in from the left side of the picture, and don't worry, I will put that in later. And we are getting a little bit closer because in comes the part where I start on all the flowers, and this is really fun, really time consuming, but look how cute they are. There's a little pink one and a little yellow one, and the blue one is just like, yep, I'm the very beginning of this fountain of flowers that's gonna happen. And trust me, it's gonna be a lot of flowers. I don't know if I'm going to put the finished image as the thumbnail. Probably, that's what people tend to do on these videos, but I had a blast drawing all of these, and you can see I start doing the really wavy vine that's just like flowing around her and curling around the area, and then I just start filling it in with flowers. And I couldn't figure out what layer I put the vine on, so that's what that was, but I got it eventually, don't worry about it. Anyway, I did try to keep all of them slightly different, but I stayed to the same color scheme because I wanted it to be a nice, continuous piece that flowed into itself in a weird kind of way. Before we get any further, I do want to say I didn't pre-plan any of this. I was just like, I should probably start practicing with Speedpaint stuff. So let's just sit down and draw. So I started with the first form that you saw that was just me sketching the head. That's usually how I start because, I get an idea of how high up my person will be. And then I sketched out a line that kind of shifted to the side, and I was like, oh, I can do her in this pose with the dress like flaring out to the side like how it is currently. And so that's kind of how my thought process goes. I just like, oh, this is a cool idea, why don't I integrate this? I don't really start with a plan. Probably should, but I don't. We'll see what happens in the future. But yeah. Anyway, we're still working on flowers here. I guess one of the stories that I can tell is kind of short, but it has to do a lot with flowers. So, in my family, my dad's not really known for apologizing, but this one time he knew he said something that was, not the best. So instead of apologizing, he goes out to our front yard and he picks a rose for me. And maybe it may not seem like a lot, but I mean, it means a lot when someone that doesn't apologize kind of just does something physically in order to apologize. I don't know if you know people like that, but it's kind of reassuring that they're still trying to apologize even if they can't make themselves say the words. And it kind of makes you think, hey, we're all different. We deal with stuff in different ways. So, maybe this is his way of saying, I was kind of stupid and I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. So I kept that, and it's actually still in my room. I mean, it's old and dried now, but, it's memories. I actually have a lot of really old flowers in my room. I have some from my 13th birthday, I think. Some from my 18th birthday. Some from graduation. I have a lot of fake flowers. Like, not the ones you buy from the store, although I have those too. I also have the flowers that you make out of tissue paper. My mom is really crafty, so she makes cards and these bouquets of flowers that are tissue paper, and they're really pretty. And it just kind of reminds me of that in this drawing, because I have all these different brightly colored, different shapes, different styles of flower, and that's kind of what I like to surround myself with, because, like, honest to goodness, my room is kind of girly. The walls are light blue, I've got flowers all over the place. Granted, I also have dragons and ancient Egyptian papyrus on the walls. Yeah, it's a different story. I used to be really into Egyptology. That might be a story for a different time, but, may as well get into it now. So even when I was younger, I love reading now, but when I was little, I absolutely hated reading with a passion. And the only thing that I would read would be books about ancient Egypt, because I just found it so interesting and amazing that this ancient civilization could have such an in-depth understanding and working and cool systems that they came up with. Like, I knew the process of mummification when I was like 7, 8. I could tell it to you backwards and forwards. I knew all the Egyptian gods and goddesses. I could tell you, I even tried to teach myself hieroglyphics, guys. That's how much I was into this. I have this book that's reading and writing hieroglyphics, and it is covered with my own personal notes from little 7, 8-year-old Lindsay trying to teach herself hieroglyphics. I actually remember some of the hieroglyphics. So, I mean, honestly, now I know a lot less than I did then. It's kind of the same as when I learned Latin, because, like, at least with Latin, there's still roots and stuff, like the word umbra. You know it from umbrella, it means shadow, which makes a lot of sense, huh? But, I mean, with Latin, there's a lot of applicable things in, English and a lot of the Romance languages. But anyway, that's getting into a bunch of weird stuff, and we're getting close to the end of the video here. I was just covering up that little stain there. There's my signature, and here is the finished drawing. I am actually really happy with how it turned out. Looks really cute. Took me 1 hour and 16 minutes to put together. Not including editing time. This is just the raw footage. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If that wasn't enough time, you can go back and pause it. I get it. But I'll see you next time. Bye!